Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. JJ here, and today we're going to look at the LEGO Harry Potter Defense Against the Dark Arts classrooms. These sets mostly focus on films 2 through 4 with Lockhart, Lupin, and Moody. However, we're going to also speculate if the summer 2025 Hogwarts Castle main tower will have a Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, and which of the professors in films I think that will focus on. But let's jump right in now and take a look at these sets. For the Chamber of Secrets, we see Professor Lockhart's classroom with set 763A9, which is the Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets. This set released in 2021, retailing for $129.99 in the US. It had 1,176 pieces. Of course, most of that went to the Great Hall and the Chamber, but we will look at both Lockhart's classroom as well as his office. Of course, as one would expect, looking at Professor Lockhart's classroom, we are going to see a giant portrait of himself. He tends to be a rather vain, self-absorbed character, and that's going to be reflected very well in this set. We also see some student desks, as well as a nice build there in the back for the chandelier, some potions, a skull, and an additional portrait. But my favorite part of his classroom is, of course, the inclusion of the Cornish pixies. And here you can see I brought two of them onto the student desks. This was a really cool scene in Harry Potter when Lockhart pretty much showed he was incapable of kind of controlling even the most basic type of magic. And so by including these Cornish pixies into the set, it really helps create that backstory for Lockhart before the Chamber of Secrets is opened. Of course, it also gives us that great nervous expression for Lockhart when we see the sweat dripping down his forehead. If the new main tower set releasing in summer of 2025 does include a Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, I actually would be okay if it was a repeat of Lockhart, only because we haven't seen this really fleshed out in a lot of detail outside of kind of this one scene we see with the Chamber of Secrets. And I think you can do some really cool things with the Cornish pixies, as well as some of the other kind of embellishments we see with the decorations in his class. And moving up to Lockhart's office, there's not a ton going on here. Of course, we see that desk with the gold, and we see just 4 portraits on the wall of Professor Lockhart, and then a book there as well with him on the cover. I do quite like the top right, where it's Lockhart there with Harry Potter, but this is a really good job, again, foreshadowing kind of some of the lies that Lockhart is telling, and we haven't really seen in LEGO form before, especially the bottom left there. And from an exterior standpoint, I do want to point out that his office actually was a really cool build there with the windows. This is pretty unique and really stood out from the 2021 Hogwarts Castle wave, just creating a little bit more dimension in a very linear system. And this is really the only iteration we see of the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom from the Chamber of Secrets. So if we're going to get a repeat of the classroom, I think I'd prefer Lockhart over Lupin or Moody. However, I'd be fine if we went into, films 5, 6, 7 to represent this classroom as well. Now, the earliest iteration we've ever seen of a Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom comes here with Professor Lupin's class from The Prisoner of Azkaban. This is set 4752. It's Professor Lupin's classroom. It came out in 2004, retailing for $19.99 in the US, and this set has 155 pieces. This set gave us our first iteration of Professor Lupin, Neville Longbottom, as well as Boggart Snape, and it was cool because we saw the transition kind of from the yellow face printing to the flesh-colored face printing for the minifigures, although they did keep Snape's face in that glow-in-the-dark piece. And this set is divided with the classroom there on the left, and then kind of an entryway, as well as his office there on the right. The entryway here is bare. There's not anything in there outside of this spider web, and this is common for LEGO Harry Potter, pretty much just to cover the corridors with spider webs and call it a day. But you can place some minifigures there, which is nice. We do also get this half staircase to lead up to his office. As you'll notice, it is in a tan, which is quite different. Every other set we see it in before this came in a gray color. Up here, we see Professor Lupin's office. We can see there's a shelf there with some magical things, as well as a little bit of a desk. Not a ton going on in here. We see his suitcase there. And then what is cool is we also see kind of this skeleton piece. That's kind of the newer skeleton print at the time. They kind of changed it during the Alpha Team run. And we see kind of the more sinister looking skeleton. And then inside kind of is hiding a little bit of magic, which is common for these LEGO Harry Potter sets. Next, looking here at the classroom, there's not a ton going on. One thing that's interesting is it does not look like this set was designed to be stacked on top of. Usually, kind of these early sets, you can linearly, modularly connect them by stacking them on top of each other. However, as you can see, there's quite a big arch here at the top of Lupin's classroom. We see some nice embellishments there with these kind of dragon heads. And again, some additional kind of potion bottles, as well as the skeleton head there. And then looking inside of his classroom, of course, we see there's another table with some additional kind of potions, the chocolate bar, which is nice as well. And one thing that is cool about this set is it does have a sticker piece there to represent the wardrobe where the students can kind of cast their Boggarts into. And since this set comes with Neville Longbottom, of course, you can rotate this wardrobe piece to reveal Snape dressed in Neville's grandmother's clothing. All in all, this was a fun little play feature, and it was great to get that new torso print for Professor Snape, or I guess Boggart version of Professor Snape. And as someone that collects Lego Harry Potter, as well as retired Lego Harry Potter, definitely keep an eye out on used sites like Mercari or eBay. I was able to find this set new in box for $30, I think in 2021, so I was really happy to add it to my collection for a pretty fair price point, I thought. And while this is the only iteration officially of Lupin's classroom, we do actually see a Defense Against the Dark Arts tower that includes Lupin's office. In 2011, we got set 4867. This retailed for $49.99 in the US and had 466 pieces. This set was called a Hogwarts. Obviously, it's more like the bridge and the side towers, and I think paired really well with the 2010 Hogwarts Castle set. But it did on the right side there have a Defense Against the Dark Arts tower. This tower had 4 levels, and it is the 3rd level that represents Lupin's classroom. On the top was a holding place for the Mirror of Erised, and I actually feel like this is one of the better builds for the Mirror of Erised that we've seen. Next was Professor Lupin's classroom, which we'll look at in just a moment. Underneath that was the Room of Requirement from the Order of the Phoenix, which is just an empty chamber. I guess you could put minifigures in, which again, still common for Lego Harry Potter by 2011. And then here in the bottom is a dungeon, which is too small to even place Lego minifigures standing up. For me, it was a really strange decision to include Professor Lupin's office with this set, only because this set really focuses on some of the later films. But there we see kind of a chair as well as a table there in the back. Again, we see the skull as well as kind of a quill, perhaps an ink bottle or potion bottle. And then there's a sticker piece here on this chalkboard as well. Between Lockhart and Lupin, we are more overdue for a Lupin Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom in the new main tower set coming out this summer. However, for whatever reason, I still feel like the designers could do a better job creating a Lockhart Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. It really depends if the main tower focuses exclusively on the Chamber of Secrets or if they also bring in some scenes from The Prisoner of Azkaban or other films as well. And we can't talk about classroom sets without, of course, talking about the Hogwarts Moment sets. This is set 76397, the Hogwarts Moment Defense Against the Dark Arts Classroom. This set released in 2022, retailing for $29.99 in the US with 257 pieces. How each of these sets work is it was a display piece as a book. However, you could open it up and reveal kind of a classroom inside. Here we can see all the pieces kind of expanded out of the book. And there's just a ton of really cool details with some of the pieces that come out, as well as the sticker pieces there on the back. And we do kind of create 2 scenes here. Of course, looking there at the back wall, we can see the fans, as well as just a bunch of different kind of potion bottles, glass cups, magnifying glasses. I like the inclusion here of the spider, as the spider's kind of being tortured or dangled. And I like the little build there for the fan as well. Moving up, we see, of course, a chalkboard. And then we see kind of a student table here. Looking at this other side of the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, of course, we can see on the top right an additional spider. There's a tea kettle as well as some additional jars. We see a nice fireplace build, some portraits, a desk, and then there's this chest, which is one of the more haunting things that's come with a Lego set, in my opinion. When we open up that chest, we see the real Mad-Eye Moody kind of kept prisoner down here. Of course, it's like the forced perspective where it's supposed to be really deep, so they've included a micro-scale figure. Knowing just how detailed the Hogwarts Moments books were, I think they made the right choice creating the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom from the Goblet of Fire with Mad-Eye Moody. He was a figure we really only saw in the CMF series, so it was nice to get an additional iteration. Also, we haven't really seen a lot of these scenes played out. We do have another Moody classroom that we'll take a look at in just a moment, but I thought this was a really cool set that had the opportunity just to include a lot of really neat details. Plus, the inclusion there of the chest was a very creepy, unexpected addition to this build. Also, special shout out to Barty Crouch Jr. being a really good teacher throughout most of the year for Harry Potter and the other students. It's crazy that a convicted Prisoner of Azkaban character is able to kind of do as good of a job throughout the year for the students. Now, we also saw a Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with set 75948, Hogwarts Clock Tower, that retailed in 2019. This set cost $89.99 in the US with 922 pieces, which of course, most of those pieces not go into the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. And turning this set around, we see Mad-Eye Moody's classroom just here underneath the hospital wing. And similar to the other iteration of his classroom, we see the faux glass there. I think that green bottle is just to be a reference to the Polyjuice Potion, and those are both kind of right next to his desk. And then we look over here more at the classroom section. Again, we see a chalkboard, a trophy, and some additional things there on the table. And one thing I like about this version from the clock tower is that we actually see some of these things here on the desk. I felt like with the Hogwarts Moments book, these were just kind of printed sticker pieces in the background, showing some of kind of the dangerous animals and creatures here in the classroom. So it's nice that it's a little bit more fleshed out. It did make sense to include Moody's classroom here with this set, mostly because this does focus on the Goblet of Fire. Of course, we see some references to the Prisoner of Azkaban, but in general, this set focused on the Yule Ball. My only critique is it didn't come with the Mad Eye Moody minifigure. We got lots of characters from the Goblet of Fire, but if we're going to give Moody's classroom, he really should have been included with this set. Now, if I got to choose which Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom came with the main tower, assuming this classroom comes with the main tower, I would definitely choose from the Order of Phoenix, Professor Umbridge's classroom. I don't have the 2007 Lego Harry Potter Hogwarts Castle in my collection, so I think it'd be a really cool opportunity to include Umbridge's classroom and office in a Hogwarts build. Do you think we will get a Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with the 2025 Summer Hogwarts Castle main tower? If so, which year or professor do you hope we get a classroom for, and which professor do you expect us to get a classroom for? Like I said, I would love to get Professor Umbridge. That's kind of my main choice right now. However, I do expect if they include it to be one of the three, Lockhart, Lupin, or Mad Eye Moody. And of the three, I'm definitely leaning these two with a little bit more favor towards Lockhart. But let me know what you think of the comments down below in which you would like to see them include with the main tower. And if you don't think it's going to be a Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, will they include a different classroom or no classroom at all? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to stay updated with LEGO leaks, rumors, news, and reviews, hit the subscribe button down below. And let me know what you're hoping to be included in the Summer 2025 main tower set. I will see you all next time.